And now I'd like to ask you to help me welcome Reverend Bonnie. And
my turn?
Yes.
Good job. She learned a sign. I'm impressed. Yeah, that means it's my turn. Your turn? My turn. So it's always a pleasure for me to take my turn up here and speak with you. And we're not going to let Edie's affirmation go unsaid, but let's hold it for the end because it's perfect for how we'll finalize this. And I just want you to know as you listen to my talk this morning that we did not talk about this talk, and it's amazing how God works, and you'll see why when you see what she read and what I have to say. Let me get my books out. So how many of you, any of you, got to go to Disneyland as a child? Did anybody get to go to Disneyland? Okay, good. As an adult? Good. Okay. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. Huh? First, I want to read to you from Ernest Holmes. This is the Science of Mind textbook, and our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote this. And so this is a reading from him. It is easy to believe that God is perfect. We must also believe that the spiritual person is perfect. Since it is difficult to believe that the objective person is perfect, we must confine our statements to a realization of the spiritual perfection of humankind. We know the background of human thought is, to a great extent, one of negation, a denial of an harmonious and spiritual universe. Consequently, our outlook on life must be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And even when the results are not immediately forthcoming, we must maintain a calm serenity of thought. We must relight the torch of our imagination by fire caught from heaven. We must remain faithful to this vision, for a realization of the presence of God is the secret power of our work. Again, that's Ernest Holmes. So, back to that Disneyland. I grew up in Southern California, and I was part of a dance group that occasionally got to perform in Disneyland, and then we got to go on the rides for free. So that made it possible for me to go several times as a child. And my favorite part of Disneyland was Tomorrowland. And in Tomorrowland was a ride. It's not there anymore, but there was a ride where they made you really small, and you got to go through a molecule and see what the inside of a molecule was like. And of course, the ride was bumpy at times and scary, and we went through the nucleus, and at one point, we could look down the microscope and we could see the big eye of the scientist watching us as we took our trip through this molecule. And at the end, you get out and the sidewalk moved, and that was a big thing at that time, the people mover. And we'd get on the sidewalk and it would take us out to the end of the ride. Well, one time I went on this ride with a young boy who was like a brother to me. And when we got off the ride, he goes, "Am I big again?" Well, like I said, I grew up in Southern California, and another thing that happened several times when I was growing up is it was predicted that California was going to have a major earthquake, and we were going to break off and either sink into the ocean or float off and become our own little island state out there in the Pacific somewhere. So we would leave school saying goodbye to each other, not knowing whether we'd see each other the next day or not. And then we'd wake up in the morning kind of going, am I still here? Am I floating out in the ocean, or are we still attached to the United States? Well, I think it's interesting how humans throughout time, going as far back as we can see in recorded history, have predicted horrible things are going to happen at some point in time. You know, the end times are coming. In fact, the final book in the Christian scriptures of the Bible, Revelations, has words that started off like, things which must soon come to pass. The time is at hand, meaning it is going to happen right away. A lot of the early Christians actually expected Jesus to return so soon that they went into fasting to prepare themselves as they waited. Then, of course, we had stories like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, and we heard those when we were kids. And then we all lived through Y2K, waking up going, is our computer still here? Did it explode? Are we still able to function the way we're used to functioning? And then this last year we had December 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar. And many people thought that was going to be the end of everything as we know it. And we woke up the next morning. Are we still here? Are we the same? Are we big again? Are we still how God intended us to be? Well, here we are. And we still have these predictions and these things that come up for us. And I think even though some of us might have laughed at the response of the little boy to the ride, or some of us laugh at this idea that the world's coming to an end because we've heard it so many times, the reality is we take ourselves on a personal level through those same kinds of things many times. Sometimes we go through this experience of feeling like we're really little and we're being watched by this big eye and life is just unpredictable and we're on a ride that we can't control. And when we get to the other end, we're kind of going, whoa, am I big again? Am I back to the person I know myself to be? Have I survived it? Are we still here? Or has the whole world shifted? Well, I think it's interesting that when we get off of those kind of rides, we often find out and realize that it was just our vivid imagination appearing as real. Just like Disneyland appeared to us as children, at least to me, as real. And then I go back as an adult and I think, boy, I really believed this. And so that vivid imagination is active even in our lives as adults. And so I wonder what it is about the human condition that gets something out of predicting the end times, predicting doom, predicting that it's not going to do this, or it always does that, or this is how my life always goes. What is it about us that tends to do that? Well, I think it's because we like drama, just like the reading said. I think we like drama in our lives. Now, if you think about entertainment, music, plays on stage, dancing, if it's not done with a little flair of drama, it's not as interesting to us. It doesn't keep our attention. It's the dramatic in that part of what's being presented to us that gives us that entertainment, that keeps us interested. Nowadays, the news isn't even about telling us what's going on. It's about picking out the dramatic and making it look like this big dramatic experience that's going on. Because they're trying to keep our attention. And part of that humanness that we are wants that drama in life. Well, my son was somebody, I think, born into this world loving drama. And by 10, he was part of a community acting company. And he really loved being on stage and could memorize his lines amazingly quickly. And so he was all about drama. And one day he came home from school and he says, Mom, on my way to school, when I left your office, all of a sudden I was being followed in a car by these 3 guys, and they were, making fun of me. And so I was really scared, and I started running, and then they started driving faster, and so I kept running, and I didn't know what to do. And so I saw this house, and so I jumped over the hedge, and I ran across the front yard, and I jumped over the hedge again, and I went up to the front door. Well, by this time, the car had left. They just kept driving down the street. But he had been really scared, and he was so wanting to tell me how he managed to get away from these guys. Well, I looked at him and I said, okay, that's true. And a lot of people would say that is a real thing to be afraid of. We don't want our children followed by strangers, especially 3 big guys in a car. That's a real experience and a real fear. And a lot of times people will tell me, Bonnie, you just have to face reality. Not everything always works out the way people want it to. And that's true. Things don't always work out the way we picture it or the way we want it. But I do believe things always work out for our good. And I believe that those things that we call reality have different ways of being approached and different ways of being looked at and different ways for us to deal with them in order to have a different outcome or a different way that they activate in our lives, I guess. So when Ben told me this story, after I listened, I told him, well, that's good. I'm glad he got away and he figured out something to do. I said, but let's look at all the other things you could have done. I wanted him to know that he had options, that the only answer to that situation wasn't the dramatic leaping hedges in a single bound and going up to a stranger's front door and getting away in that dramatic way. So I said, what kept you from just turning around and walking the opposite direction? Now, if you know Albuquerque, this took place on Lomas Avenue. Lomas is about 3 or 4 streets wide going one direction and 3 or 4 lanes, rather, going the other direction. So if he had turned around and walked against traffic, they would have had to cross 3 or 4 lanes of traffic, found a place to make a U-turn, come all the way back around before they could have gotten to him. And by that point, he could have been back in my office. So we talked about that. We talked about other options that he also had. in addition to just turning around and walking against traffic. And I talked to him about the importance of drama when it's on stage. We need it there. We want it there. That's what entertains us. But how sometimes drama in our own lives is not what we want. It disrupts the peace. It causes that huge surge of adrenaline, which sometimes feels good and sometimes really doesn't, especially when it's in the form of fear, like he was experiencing at that time. So I wanted him to think about how he could continue to have all the drama he wanted on stage, but maintain the ability to stay in a place of not so dramatic in his personal life. Well, years ago, I read a book, and it was called The Dance of Anger. And that book for me was really enlightening because the idea that when I was involved in a situation where there was a lot of anger with another person was really like a dance, and that I could choose to dance or not, and I could choose the steps that I wanted to do in that dance. That was a new idea for me at that time. And so when Holmes says, our outlook on life must be transformed by the renewing of our minds, how is it then that we can go to that place in our mind that allows us to think about all our options, including just turning around and walking against traffic, including changing the steps to the dance that we're involved in, or maybe even the partner that we're dancing with, to remember what our options are? Well, one of the things that I've started saying to myself is, oh, it's her again. H-E-R-R, her. The human experience raising up as reality once again. So I'm dancing with her again. There she is. And so how do I know when I need to take her to the doctor? And I'm using DR, doctor for drama reduction. How do I know when I need to get her and myself to that place where we look at reducing some of that drama that's starting to take place in my life? Well, I think we need to go to the doctor for drama reduction when we start telling ourselves, here we are again, or I'm stuck. Or when the person that we're interacting with is brand new in our life, but they're acting just like this person, and then this person, and this person, and this person, and we have to consider, where's the common denominator in these interactions? We have to go to the doctor for drama reduction when we're saying, oh, this is just like it always is, or this is always going to be this way. Essentially, when we are in the drama, but with a new cast, or when we're doing the same dance, but with a new partner. And I don't just mean a physical partner, I mean just in general, who we're interacting with. Here they are showing up. It could be a boss, it could be a new friend, and all of a sudden we're doing the same dance over again. In the Science of Mind magazine this month, the whole month of January is focused on the idea of new beginnings. In one of the articles, the man that wrote the article said he talks to his clients, as he referred to them, when he does treatment work, and he asks them, what do you want in your life? And why don't you have it? And when he asks the question, why don't you have it, the answers to that are usually those false beliefs or those past things that they're still holding on to, or those things, that's the place where the work needs to take place. That's what's preventing them from getting what it is they want. So you can ask yourself those two questions. What do I want? And why don't I have it? And when you write your list of why don't I have it, that's the place where the work begins. That's the place where you can start to change the dance. Now, if what you're saying to yourself in your head right now is, yes, but, that yes, but also means it's time to go to the doctor for drama reduction, because that yes, but completely supports the old drama, the old way things are going. So when I talk about working with someone to get rid of some of that drama, I'm talking about working with a practitioner, working with a minister, talking with friends and saying, get real honest with me. Help me see what my patterns are. Where am I at and how do I change this? Or talking to a counselor, whatever it takes, somebody that can help you see what those things are that are stopping you from having what you want, and how you can work on reducing the drama that they continue to create in your life. Like I said, January is about new beginnings. And one of the things that happens in religious science churches around the country in January is we tend to revisit our basic beliefs, the things that are what sustain us, what are the foundation of who we are as religious scientists and how we work in the world. So often we look at treatment and prayer, affirmative prayer, and the steps of treatment. We just revisit those. So I thought today let's look at how treatment can help us in the arena of drama reduction, of bringing us to a place where we have less of that showing up in our lives. And Jesse Jennings wrote an article in here, and he says, you can overcome adversity and even, to paraphrase Emma Curtis Hopkins, not get your head into the lion's jaws in the first place when you use prayer and treatment. And he reminded us that prayer isn't a solemn outer performance, but a joyful inner alignment. Well, when I think about it, having my head in a lion's jaw is probably about as dramatic as we can get. So what a concept that we can use prayer and treatment to get ourselves out of that position, but we can also use it to never even get our head in that jaw to begin with. Basically, taking it a step back. We don't even have to go to that place of extreme drama if we use prayer and treatment. So let's look at those steps. Lately, on the news, there's been a lot about first responders. There have been different things that happened in the fall where first responders were in the news for their ability to handle situations that were very difficult. And first responders are taught to attend to some immediate things first before they deal with other things. And they use ABC, and I think I went through it as the airway, the breathing or bleeding, and circulation. And you want to make sure all that's taken care of before you can look at other things like broken bones or stuff that might be going on. Well, I think in our spiritual and emotional lives, we have a similar thing that happens. And so when we're in a heightened state of drama, we're in that emergency mode. And all of our spiritual and emotional energy is going to containing that immediate situation. And we can't deal with some of the deeper healing that might need to take place. We can't look for some of the other things that might be there while we're attending to what's in our face in that sort of dramatic situation of that time. And so I think that when we move into treatment and prayer, we use that as a way to stabilize, to take care of that ABC, to take care of that initial stuff so that we can get to that deeper healing that needs to take place, that can keep us out of the lion's jaw to begin with. But we can't get there until we stabilize and move to that place where we can center and do some of that deeper work. So step one, what is it? Anybody taking foundations? Recognition, we call it God is. Step one, we're looking at what is God. What does God mean to us? And if we don't like the word God, we can use spirit, universe, higher power. But what is that in our life? When we're talking about the drama or the stage that we're on in life, God is the stage itself. God is the director, the author, in charge of the costuming, the makeup. The characteristics of God are love, joy, wholeness, health, abundance. We look at and focus in step one at the wholeness or the allness of God, the big picture, how it is that God is in every aspect of what's going on in the midst of this drama or experience that we're having. And we're looking at the fact that God is all, in and through everything, everywhere present. Now, one of the things I like about religious science and Ernest Holmes is that he taught us to stay open at the top. And so other things can be read and inspire us. And this year, for Christmas, I got this book. And I have to tell you, I'm amazed at how wonderful it is. So I encourage you to get it. It's called No Ordinary Time, The Rise of Spiritual Intelligence and Evolutionary Creativity. And it's by Jan Phillips. If you want to see it afterward, you're welcome to. And in here, she talks about how difficult it is sometimes for us to see ourselves as one with everything that's going on around us. And again, if we think about some of those events at the end of 2012, for us to see ourselves as one with every player in those events can be very difficult. But here's what she says about that. There is a momentary discomfort as we try to find the rightness in another's thinking or perceive the enemy as ourself. It goes against everything we've ever learned, and it evokes the same kind of emotional withdrawal symptoms that come with every attempt to give up an addiction. We are addicted to dualism because every institution in our lives has promoted this kind of thinking. But none of us can call ourselves free until we rid ourselves of this dangerous habit. The ability to hold two contradicting thoughts simultaneously is not just a matter of true genius, it is a matter of true freedom. If we cannot hear an opposing idea without a negative emotional reaction, we are not free. We are bound to an ideology that we have most likely inherited and never thoroughly examined. Prophetic leadership is sourced from and rooted in the merging of opposites. Just as a battery is charged by the union of positive and negative forces, just as a child is conceived by the union of a male sperm and female ovum, so does evolutionary thinking emerge from the union of us and them into a we. So in step one, we're looking at moving out of duality. Now, in religious science, we don't often hear talk about the devil or evil. So I think you might find it interesting, because I sure did, that in the glossary of the Science of Mind text that Ernest Holmes wrote, under the word devil, his definition of devil is any thought of duality. He basically said the only devil we'll ever encounter is one that comes from our belief in and our giving energy to this idea of duality. And so as difficult as it is, that first step in treatment is all about bringing ourselves to that place of recognizing God is whole, all, oneness, wholeness, and in and through everything. And from there, we get to move into step two. Anybody know step two? Unification. And we shorten that, we teach the kids, and I like that way, to say I am. I am. So God is, and now unification, I am. So in step one, we've put God in the spotlight on the stage of our drama. We've made God the main character. God is now directing and leading the dance, and we get to step into the arms of God and dance with God as one. I love that visual. Letting God lead, and we're dancing as one. We become one. Or we step into the character that God is on that stage, and our words and our actions in the drama are now the words and actions of God moving through us. We're more open, and we're allowing that. That's what unification is all about. Now, when I was growing up, I was part of the drama department. Surprise, surprise. And one of the things that the students in my drama department did was the senior class, during the last show of the last performance of the year, would always throw in something that didn't belong in the play. That was a challenge to everybody else in the play, and it would make the director absolutely crazy. So they would either change the lines, or someone would come out dressed different than they were supposed to that was totally ridiculous, or they'd put something on the stage that didn't belong there that had to be dealt with by the people in the play, and they had to stay in character, deal with it, and basically try and not let the audience realize something had gone wrong unless the audience actually knew the play in and out. So as we know, if someone forgets their lines or changes their lines or does something different, everybody has to react to that. Everybody has to respond to that, just like they did when the seniors would do that in their play. So as we move into unity with God, we can think and ask our God self, do I need to be the main character? Do I need to be the drama queen right now in the midst of this drama? Do I need to be in the lead? Or is somebody else better suited for this part? Can I just get off the stage altogether? Or do I need to take on a different role? Have I been typecast? And do I like the role that I've been put into? And so what would happen if I changed it? Now as my God self, what would my lines be like? How would my actions be in the midst of this as my God self is coming through? How do I change the dance steps? Now, I want to share this with you because I thought this was interesting. In here, she tells us that in the Islamic tradition, People are encouraged to let their words pass through the 3 gates before speaking. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Does that sound familiar to anybody in here? Mary Lynn wrote a song that we sing at the close of this service that asks those questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if it doesn't pass the test, it ought not be spoken. And so when we're in this place of unity, where God is speaking through us, where God is writing the script, those are the gates we need to take our words and our lines through before we speak our lines on the stage. And that might mean that we change things, that now the script is going to be different, and everybody involved is going to have to shift how they interact with us because we've changed it. And so when we've done that, that brings us to step 3, which is? Realization. Of course, the practitioner is answering. So realization. And in step 3, in realization, we state everything in the present tense. And we do that because drama really can only be supported when we're dealing with the past or reliving the past or bringing the past into the present or catastrophizing our future. It might be like this. What if this happens? What's going to happen here? That's where the drama comes from. It's very hard to have high drama when we're in the present. So when we get to the 3rd step, actually the entire treatment is spoken in the present tense. And that allows us to really work on and bring into place that drama reduction. So God is now directing. God is speaking through us. We have a new script and a new dance, new lines, and we get to express those through realization. We state what it is we're doing, how it is that this is shifted on the stage of life, how our drama is going to look now that God is working and speaking through us. That's what the realization step is all about. Now, there's also step 4 and 5, which is thanksgiving and release. And I had to eliminate something to make us get out of here on time this morning. So we're not going to look at those in depth. But I think you can take it from here and see where then in the present place we can give thanks. And we can release it and we can let it go. Now, I love to dance. And I love a good drama. I like to be entertained. But as we dance with her, that human experience raising up as reality, as we dance with her, we need to remember that we're always at choice, that we can always decide what kind of steps we want to do with her, who's going to lead, what kind of things we're going to be doing. And we can ask ourselves, how can my spiritual self best optimize my time dancing with her? How can I truly enjoy my dance with her? And again, I'm going to read to you from this book. This is evolutionary creativity. When we engage in the transformation of thoughts into language. Now, when we do a treatment, we're taking our thoughts and putting them into language. Language into practice, and then practice of our life, and then when the practice of our lives encourage, sustain, and energize others. This is prophetic work. We are not predicting the future, we are giving birth to it, co-creating it in consort with the great mystery. And that's what that step 3 is about. When we're stating it in the present tense, we're not making a prediction about the future. We are in that very moment co-creating through our words and our interaction with the great mystery what our life is going to be like and what it is like. We bring our consciousness to the table, and it meets with the unknown cosmic forces. This is the creative dance of a lifetime. This is truly dancing with the stars. So dare to change the lines in the play, in the drama that you might be in, or at any point when those dramas show up in your life. Dare to introduce something new. Dare to choose the dance steps that you're going to do and who your dance partner might be. If you've been dancing with anger, choose to dance with love. If you've been dancing with duality, choose to dance with that oneness and that wholeness, because that is truly dancing with the stars. So now take out your affirmation. the correction, I see it. The word than is then. So the affirmation is, throw your heart over the bar and your body will follow, then dance with God. So let's say that together. Throw your heart over the bar and your body will follow, then dance with God. And so it is. Let's move into prayer. And so I just give great thanks as we move into this new year. And as we consider all of the dramatic experiences that we went through in 2012 and beyond, we can reframe those and look at those and see where God was in each and every event. We can re-examine our role. We can see where we might be typecast and we want to change that role. We can see who we've been dancing it with, what kinds of dances we do with people, and how we might want to change that. We allow ourselves to contemplate this, to take this in. And we are so grateful that one of the greatest aspects of this teaching is that we can change our thinking, change our perspective, and thus allow what shows up in our life to be different. So we just allow these words to settle. We allow whatever visuals came to mind to be present. And we take with us whatever might help us to rewrite any script that we need to rewrite. If we've never thought of ourselves as a dancer, we now envision ourselves dancing with God in the lead. How that feels to just twirl and be at peace and to be held in those arms that know all, are all, connect us to all, are loving, joyful, abundant, have only our best interest in mind. Knowing that in that wholeness, our best interest and another's best interest are one and the same. So as we allow ourselves this experience in our mind's eye, we know that that which we can imagine, that which we then put into words, then becomes the reality of our life. And so we allow that reality to unfold this year in its newness, in its excitement, and in its wholeness. And so for this we give great thanks. And so it is.